So talking about predation is interaction between multiple trophic levels. It might be one trophic level or multiple trophic levels. Now the predation is usually an interdependent relation where one is dependent on the other availability. Okay, the prey is dependent on the availability of the predator. Similarly, the predator is again dependent on the availability of prey. So it includes hunting, acquiring, foraging, consuming, and all the acts that come in are considered inside predation. Inside predation. Now there are multiple forms of predation. Herbivory is eating of herbs, plants, or autotrophs. There is carnivore, which animals depend on directly flesh and flesh parts or body part of other organisms. And there is omnivory, which they can acquire both animal and plant organisms. And retritivory talks about acquirance of resources from soil particles like humus layer or small microparticles that are available in soil. So they are not directly acquiring the plants or animals, but the dried, decayed matter or even sometimes fresh matter that falls on the surface of the soil. So it is, not scavenging, not decomposing, but it is detritivory, where they are acquiring those particular resources that fall on the particular soil parts and then they acquire. So majority of insects go for detritivory. And then there's scavenging. Scavenging talks about acquirance of dead or decaying matter. It also called as decomposing. Scavenging is a sort of process where they are acquiring animal proteins or animal parts or dead and decaying organisms, whereas decomposers are actually a mixture of detritivory and scavenging. So you can consider both. In predation, foraging is the most important act. Okay, foraging refers to the act of getting or eating the particular resource, but also the searching, acquiring, handling, assessing. So all that of interaction that happens within acquiring a food is called foraging. So foraging can be divided into multiple acts or the multiple process, and all of them are interrelated. Interrelated in the sense of foraging, that is eating a particular prey, requires searching for that food. In order to eat a particular resource or consume a particular resource or particular prey, we need to search for the prey. Once we get a prey or once we get a sight of the prey, we need to assess what is the cost or benefit to consume or to get that prey. Okay, let's say we saw a particular prey that there is that. Okay, the next thing is we need to find the cost and benefit that is required to get that prey. Once we decided, okay, we need to get that one, then we need to pursue it. We need to go towards it. We need to wait to hunt it down. I need to form collisions to work it out. There are different tactics to acquire a particular prey. Once it is acquired, we need to handle it, process it. So if it is legs, there are layers of hair on it. So we need to remove the hair or flesh so that we'll process it and eat it. Okay, let's say while the assessment happens, the prey is not found to be that much of beneficial. Okay, then we need to leave that prey and we need to go for find another prey. And while we are trying to pursue a particular prey, while we are trying to get that particular prey, and if the prey runs out the particular predator, then we need to find again another prey. Okay, so that sort of flow chart of these interactions is there. If you get an idea, then foraging is kind of collective process. Now the foraging process, as I was telling you, a collective process starts with search. The search can be passive or active. Active search talks about when we are moving and trying to search a particular object or a prey, whereas passive search is like sitting on one particular area and looking around to find a particular prey. Okay, so different kind of organisms go on for different kind of searches. Now one can move around to find a particular prey, and the other point is where one particular individual sits in one particular area, and a higher area, let's say, and there it sits and tries to find species to prey upon. Then there is assessment. Once they saw a particular prey, let's say, so it could be based upon the cost benefit ratio, getting the prey, or what are the benefits of getting that prey, what is the time or the amount of energy that is required to get that prey, what is the amount of handling that is required. Let's say if it is having spines, it is having scales, it is having hard flesh or whatever, then how much of time will I be getting, will be spending to remove that all. Let's say if I hunt it down, I spent the energy and I hunt down a particular prey. If it is a rhino, then I'll have to take more time to handle it, to remove the upper parts so that I'll be able to eat the lower flesh. Then the size of the prey or the resource. If the prey is way bigger than me, then I have to find some tactics or strategy in order to get it under control. If it is way lower, then I will not be getting that much of energy. So there should be a certain size ratio so that I can acquire maximum benefits. So there should be an optimum size of the prey where I'll be getting maximum benefits while I am also dealing with adjustable amount of cost, the cost that I can perceive, that I can handle. Okay, then comes what is the energy that I got. Sometimes the prey might be small, but the energy that gets from the prey is quite high. So it depends on what amount of energy I'm getting from the prey and what type of energy I'm getting. Okay, it might be a direct beneficial energy, it might be indirect, it might be storage, it might be whatever. So all that sort of assessment happens when we are trying to acquire a food. Then once we assess all that, we need to go and pursue and capture it. Okay, we just can't sit and just think that assessment will be done and it will. The next thing is capturing it. So the capturing process might be including pursuit. Pursuit is kind of interaction where one is actually following it, or hot, if you know about games, NFS, hot pursuit, and that sort of car pursuits and all. So these are kind of interactions where one is following the other. Okay, another one is ambush. Ambush is kind of an capturing technique where there are multiple individuals, let's say 1 2 3 4 5 and 6 and 7. So what they do is they prepare a particular trap where other individuals come in. Okay, the individuals come in, and these individuals, the predators, wait around to attack these ones. So that sort of tactic is called ambush. Ambush usually attack by surprise. Ambush is also called as attack by surprise, where multiple individuals actually wait and strategize or plan to trap in or to shock in the particular prey and kill by surprise. Then there is interception. Interception is kind of interaction where one particular species is sitting on and then surprisingly acting directly to the particular prey. Like for example, a chameleon sticking out its tongue to capture a particular prey. So we waited there, it intercepted, it threw something to capture that prey and captured it again. So that sort of interaction is called interception. Multiple individuals, like snakes also, they wait there, and once the individual is moving around or nearby, then they quickly bite it and handle it. Now the difference between ambush and interception is interception happens usually for objects that are around in less motion, whereas ambush is usually around individuals that are moving on, that are trying to move around and are actively moving around. Okay, now there is collection. Collection happens for individuals which are, let's say, not that much of moving. So there are multiple individuals which clump together, like let's say plants or grasses or such. So there are multiple individuals which are clumping together. Okay, in that sense they go on there, they find the particular resource and then directly collect it. Okay, and then after the object is acquired, it needs to be handled. Then there may be removal of external parts. Let's say we are removing spines or hairs or outer extrusions or the coverings that they are. Okay, there might be filtering, okay, where one particular resource is associated with it and I need to remove it. That, let's say if I'm acquiring resource from water, there might be multiple individuals that come in, I need to only take in that particular resource which is acquired. Okay, then comes removal of specific parts. Let's say I am interested in only eating the flesh of the fruit, then I don't need the seed, so I need to remove the seed. So that sort of handling, that sort of process is entirely called as foraging. So this is the entire process of interaction and foraging. So all of these are interrelated. The assessment, the search, the capture, the handlings, all of those are interrelated. Some individuals might get out also after while handling. Okay, so all of these interactions work together to give an idea about how organisms grow throughout the foraging process. So these are also a part of foraging behavior. We need to study all aspects of it in order to understand how organisms forage. Now there are multiple classifications or division on the basis of diet. So there are specialists and then there is generalist. Specialists are individuals that have a specific requirement of diets. Okay, so that might be species selective. Now few organisms are interested in few species only, so they depend on particular species only, and that is more specialized. Whereas some are size selective, so some organisms actually prefer eating one particular size and not bigger than that or smaller than that. So they might acquire different species, but it should be a particular size only. Then there is section selective. Section selective is a kind of selection where one particular individual is trying to depend or favors one particular region or section of the organism. Let's say plant. Then few organisms actually like eating what is below the soil. They like to eat roots, they like to eat stem, they like to eat tubers, whereas some individuals like to eat whatever coming in the canopy. Okay, so that sections of preferences. So they are specialized to eat that sort of particular regions or sections, whereas generalists are more open, adaptable and widespread. So they prefer mixed diet where they can eat different parts of the same plant. If they're herbivores, if they're omnivores, then they feed on flesh as well as plants. So omnivores are more generalist, as because they have developed or they've adapted different structures for them. That, let's say, crows have a specific beak that allows it to eat flesh as well as other parts of fruits as well. So these kind of interactions and these kind of adaptations make the generalist better suited individual to live out. They are more fit because they can acquire multiple resources. But acquiring a resource or acquirement of the resource can be solitary or can be social. Now these interactions, acquiring a particular resource, so that actually forms in the basis of social interaction. So if they're acquiring and handling resource on their own, then they're dealing with solitary interactions and solitary hunting. But few organisms hunt in groups like wolves, lions, and different organisms who form social structures. Majority of them are to acquire resources, while it also helps them to ward off predators. Okay, so that sort of interaction majorly are based upon social structures to acquire a particular resource or to hunt down prey. So there are other sort of classification on the basis of maybe mode of ingestion, which is filter feeding, like shrimps and prawns. They filter feed from the water. Then there are deposit feeding, where they acquire resources which are deposited or suspended in soil. Then there is fluid feeding, where they feed from the fluid from the other organisms. Then there is bulk feeding. They directly acquire a particular part of the entire organism or the entire organism. And then there is suction feeding, where they ingest the prey via the fluids around it. Okay. Apart from that, there is also cannibalism. Cannibalism is feeding on the members of the same species. There can be intrauterine cannibalism, where they acquire or they eat out the individuals within the uterus development. There is oophagy, or ovophagy, eating the eggs. There is embryophagy that happens in sharks. No. Then there is filial cannibalism, where organisms eat their young ones. Then there is self cannibalism. Few organisms also are seen to eat out their own parts when they are pretty much hungry. And there is sexual cannibalism after mating, which is pretty common in mantises. Okay, so there are multiple examples of cannibalisms as well. So there are different type of diets, foraging activities, classification on the basis of their acquirance of resources.